Welcome to Yoga Biz Camp Season 3. We've been on hiatus for a while. I'll be honest, I got so busy helping clients and new studios open that I just wasn't able to do both. I've now got systems and people in place, just like I help my studios do, and we're ready to rock and roll with our first episode, Sarah Morgan from Red Sun Yoga, How I Broke Up with ClassPass. Woohoo! Welcome to another episode of Yoga Biz Camp, and I'm super excited. I have got an incredible studio owner, and that is Sarah Morgan from Red Sun Yoga in Florida. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here. We met about a year ago at the Bold conference, and I just really liked your energy right away. And it was such a great event for us to come out of pandemic and have human connection with each other in the industry again. And then you were also in my pod group, and you're in my little pod. So that's how we know each other.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying yes to this. I'm really thrilled to have you. I am going to read your bio here. So Sarah Morgan is the owner of Red Sun Yoga. She has practiced yoga for nearly 20 years. Sarah earned her RYT 200 in 2011 as part of the Full Circle Yoga's inaugural yoga teacher training program. She began teaching at Red Sun Yoga in January 2012. Her experience was so inspirational that she bought in as a partner in 2014. As she helped build the community over a few short years, she realized that this was her calling. In October of 2021, Sarah became the sole owner of Red Sun Yoga. From that point on, her sole purpose has been to build a community for her teachers, students, and all those who are seeking to learn more about how yoga can be a catalyst for healing body, mind, and spirit. Prior to swapping Louis Vuitton for Lululemon, she spent almost a decade in the oil and gas industry, helping build critical infrastructure around the country. Feeling the need to build her own outlet, she co-founded KDMG and spent nearly a decade working with some of the most important businesses in Central Florida, including multiple Fortune 500 companies, helping with their marketing strategies and campaigns. Sarah is ERYT 500, having studied from many of the international teachers such as Brian Kest, David Williams, David Swenson, Max Strong, Tiffany Cruikshank, David Regelin, Joe Barnett, Robin Rothenberg, and Judith Lassiter. That's a great roster of people to be inspired by. I studied with David Williams, David Swenson, and Judith Lassiter. Judith was scary.
She was. Oh my! And the one that I did was an online one, and I was like.
Oh, I was in person. She walks around like a tough cookie around the room. She's like, don't look at me, don't look at me. But she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just guessing, do you come from a similar background to me, and that is a little bit on the Ashtanga side of things? Is that the door you came in?
Yes, that's the door that I came in through. I was a runner, not professional, or I just ran for help for fitness. And I didn't know anything about training, didn't stretch, and got injured. I had a stubborn IT band problem, and I couldn't run anymore. So I was looking for another place where I could find that space that you get in when you run. I don't know if you've ever run. They call it it's the same place that you get when you're in yoga. You find it's just being present. You're not thinking about anything in the past. You're not thinking about anything in the future. You're just thinking about one foot in front of the other. And so I looked and Ashtanga was it. It was not I practiced Ashtanga for about 3 years, but it was not a sustainable practice for me. The repetitive movements, the same sequence.
The jump backs. There was a lot of SI injuries from the jump backs back in the day before a lot of anatomy knowledge came into yoga.
Yeah. So mine was shoulder stuff, and because I wasn't doing chaturangas properly. And then the studio where I was practicing changed hands, and the woman who bought it, Full Circle Yoga, she was a vinyasa teacher. And when I started practicing vinyasa, that was when my practice really expanded. I got my flexibility increased, my strength increased, my balance increased. It was a more balanced practice for me. And that was when I was able to start getting into my handstands and doing arm bound.
Was that the Shiva Ray days when she exploded?
No, I said it was Brian Kest was my first introduction. And so he's really he would probably have a heart attack if he heard me say that he would be my guru, because he's a guru is dead. but he's probably my biggest inspiration, because yoga is, you got to be gentle with your body. The harder you are on it, the faster it's going to wear out. And that's something that really resonates with me. Plus, he's got a real potty mouth, and that also resonates with me.
So your love of yoga, can you tell me a brief journey of how you went from that to studio ownership, really?
Well, I was at Full Circle. She had her first teacher training, and I really wanted to start learning about the philosophy. And as I explained to people, I'm like, yoga has a it's very insidious. Like, you come off into it for the physical, and then the more that you practice, the more you find yourself changing. You find a little bit more compassion for yourself. You find a little bit more patience. And I was interested in learning more about the philosophy. I didn't get that in that training. I did a lot of yoga. The woman who owned the studio, she was a heavy duty vinyasa teacher. So she taught me how to teach a really great vinyasa class.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I became a studio owner that I really got more into the philosophy. It's still not my strength. I'm an anatomy person. Between that, I really resonated also with the yin practice, because it is such an anatomy. It can be so anatomy focused. And I really like the fascia. I call myself a fashionista.
Listen, yin can be just as challenging as a flow pose in a very different way, right? But
Absolutely.
to be able to settle into a bit of discomfort for a while, for the tissue to release, that can be mentally challenging as well.
It is.
And as for a teacher, I always find that yin is harder to teach than a vinyasa class, because vinyasa, you just keep talking, keep going. In a yin, you've got to get yourself out of the way and shut up a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
Space.
And that's been really good for me, because I actually teach 2 yin classes and a restorative class now, and only teach 1 vinyasa.
Yeah.
I'm not the hard vinyasa teacher anymore. And I really enjoy teaching those quiet classes. They become restorative for me too, because I have to sit and I have to be quiet.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah.
And I like taking care of my students too. They're very nurturing classes. So I like that.
Yeah. How'd you get to studio owner?
I had just left the graphic design business, because I was going through I was towards the end of teacher training, and I was like, this design business sucks. This is not my dream. I had a business partner. He was the designer, and I handled the business side of things. And I was like, this is not my dream. This is your dream. And we got in a big fight, and I walked out and I never went back. And then I was teaching here at the studio, and one of my former partners, she approached me and she wanted to sell me the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because she'd had the studio for a year and didn't want it. Like, she wasn't interested in she didn't like teaching. She wasn't interested in being an owner. And I was like, I just wasn't ready to go back into business ownership yet. I waited. And then I think maybe a year later, I was like, okay, I'm ready. And so I approached her again. And by that point, she had taken on a second partner. So there were 3 of us. And I bought out the first partners, I bought out her husband, because there were 3 of them. So I bought him out, and it became the 3 of us, and it worked. It worked really well. The first year, Lisa and I went to MindBody University.
Yeah.
And that was a really big shift for us, because that was when we made the switch to the membership model.
Yeah.
And it was scary. It was really scary, because the studio was not doing well. And just, we had too many class options, just all of the things that studios do wrong. And we simplified it and went to, you got a membership, you got a 5 class, a 10 class to drop in, and that's it. And it made a big difference. It took a little while, but then it got to the point where the memberships were that residual income over and over again was really what was sustaining the studio, and everything over and above that was gravy.
Yeah.
That's after, that was 2014, and our lease was getting ready to come up. One of my partners, Lisa, she lives in Atlanta, and my other partner was here. And it was like, they didn't want to continue. And I feel like that was important for building the community.
Yeah.
And that's something that is our, of the two core values that I have developed since I've been the studio owner are community and connection and integrity too. But those are my two main things with the studio since it's been mine is our community and connection.
Yeah. And what I was going to say, you're out there I see you active. I see you active in MindBody One and community things and online. And do you feel that connection out to the other studio owners and everybody in the same situation during COVID really helped?
Did not have any of those tools. My two previous partners it's very hard to run a studio by committee.
Yeah, yeah.
And there were a lot of things that I've done since I've taken over that we just didn't do. Like I said, when I went to Bold, that's something that we never would have done before. We never would have spent the money to send one of us to Bold. They didn't see the value in it. Whereas I'm like, I'm going to take advantage. This is my business. This is my dharma. This is my path. And I'm doing everything that I can, taking advantage of everything that's available.
All those free webinars during COVID that came out, training.
Yeah. And everything that I can do to gain as much knowledge as I can from people who have been doing this. I don't have all the answers. So that's why you see me. I'm happy to help. Anybody has questions because I'm like, but this is what I've experienced. So that's
completely. So how did you get to solo studio ownership? How did that come about?
Our lease was coming up due, and we had the option to sign another 5-year lease. And my two partners were like, "We're done," and I'm like, "I'm not." So I took it over, and interestingly enough, Red Sun Yoga Incorporated, that corporation name was available because before the three of us, we were an LC, and so I was able to secure Red Sun Yoga Incorporated and start an S corporation. I've started a business before. Yeah. And so I really knew what to do. And when I could see the writing on the wall, I went and I had contacted an old graphic design friend and redid the logo, got a branding guidelines set up. I had everything ready to go. So that when I took over on October 1st, it was day one, changed the sign on the door, changed the logo, changed everything. And it was like, boom, done.
Yeah.
Bye.
Do you think your experience before in the marketing side of things, in the business world, I know my background is marketing and design, so that's my field. And I know that was my superpower in my business as well as building community. But marketing was easy for me. It was natural. Did you feel like you got some of your superpowers in your business from that background?
My superpower is service.
Okay.
That's mine. Yeah. And we'll come in and I will meet them once and I will remember their name. Yeah. And then that's my superpower. That's what I say. I'm super organized and working in the oil and gas industry for almost a decade was a lot. I was in my 20s and I worked with mostly men from Louisiana and from Mississippi and South of Texas. And so it was like, hey there, little lady. And I'm like, no, usually with a string of expletives coming out of my mouth, I'm like, no, this is because I was a project manager. I was building power plants and a lot of times they didn't feel like they needed to take what I was telling them they're like in their 40s and 50s and I'm 85. And I had to unlearn some of that behavior because I was like, yeah, no, you can't be like that. But when I had the graphic design business, that was, again, my customer service and just making sure that my clients felt taken care of. And so that's really one of the things that I bring into my studio is making sure that everybody feels welcome and they come into the studio and they're like, So that's what I've imparted into my team.
So buying a studio, an existing studio. So I always say that I deal with 3 buckets of clients. There's the opening a brand new studio client. There is the rebooting an existing business or putting systems into place in an existing. Then there's buying a business, which I feel, in my experience, that's the most complicated version of owning a studio because what I see is new coming into the studio is also taking on all the history of that studio, the maybe no systems in place, no structure or bit of a free-for-all where people are selling their mala beads at the front desk kind of thing. So
Yeah.
a little cash box. I've seen it all.
I call that the knick-knack paddywhack.
Yeah.
Knick-knack paddywhack shit.
But you're the human part of that, I find it quite often is complicated because a lot of teachers may not have had a structure, and then somebody comes in and they're like, okay, we're redoing things in a new way. I'm really curious about that people part for you.
Most of my teachers have been here for a long time. The studio was opened in 2006. So that's a long time for a studio. It was actually opened in 2005. There's long history for another time. But we've been open for a long time. We're one of the oldest studios in this Central Florida area. When I took over as the sole owner, I had some very specific ideas about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And I wanted to build this as a business. And the challenge is running a heart-centered business and knowing that it still is a business.
Totally.
I used to have volunteers that would run the front desk, and I got rid of those at COVID. The other thing I had was a volunteer coordinator, and I let her go because I said, I'm going to be here. And I was here that first year. I was here all day, every day.
Hands-on learning everything.
Yes, absolutely. And I already had a really good handle on the business because I had been an owner. So I knew where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And then when I went to MindBody University again, just to see if there was anything that had changed, met some people, and then went to Bold. And that was really continued to get the ball rolling. Was where I learned of all the things that were available. So I just continued to try to learn as much as I could and say, okay, where am I going to go with this? So I had a really good idea of what I wanted to do. I really wanted to continue to build the community, build my memberships, and make sure that my teachers that we were all on the same page. Yeah. I lost half my teaching staff within 6 months. And I lost 5 of them in 1 month. And I was like, oh my God. What is happening? But it was a good thing. You don't know what you don't know. And it was stagnant energy. And there was some toxic stuff that was going on behind the scenes that I didn't realize. And those teachers are no longer here. And that's a good thing. And it opened the door for new, fresh energy to come in.
Yeah. I'm suggesting to people that are buying studios now is that because you're a new business, you're a new corporation, that you rehire, almost re-onboard into the new ways, right? So then you're finding out whether they're going to be a fit for where you want to go.
Yeah.
And if they're in alignment with your mission, vision, values, really.
Correct. Yeah. So my husband is still in the oil and gas industry. He's a business owner as well. So I actually take a lot of tips from him.
Yep.
He travels internationally and he always goes to the real shitholes because he says, I can't ask my people to do anything that I won't do myself. Yeah. So I took that to heart, or I take that to heart, and I do everything here. I clean the toilets, I fold the blankets, I do laundry, and I use myself as the example. And these teachers who left, they didn't even want to put their props away after their class.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Or they didn't want to play. They didn't want to play nice. They didn't want to follow the rules. And I had one teacher who was showing up 5 minutes before class. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly with me either.
No.
I want you there early. I want you learning everybo's names and welcoming everybody.
Exactly. And this one teacher, she was actually the only teacher that because I have 1099s down here in Florida. We're not employees. And so she was the only one who I actually had to say, I'm not renewing your contract. Yeah. And then everybody else was like, yeah, we're renewing. I'm like, okay, bye.
What's your people structure? Do you have people in place for things, or are you all in?
I have just since the beginning of the year, I have a studio assistant. She's my right-hand gal. She's one of my teachers and she's amazing. She helps me with a lot of things. So I have her, and then I have another gal who helps me with my social media. And then I have one other gal who is handling just my newsletter. Because there were things, like I said, I knew what I wanted to do.
Yep.
And I just didn't have the time to do everything. The one thing that I did that I feel like really made a difference was I came up with a milestone reward
Yeah.
system. And so I went back to 2008 and I found all of the members who had been 250, 500, 1,000. And then I did gifts for all of them for all of the various different levels. So my studio assistant has taken over that project, which is, I'm like, okay, here you go. And so that's been huge. And then the social media stuff, again, I knew what I wanted to do with it. I don't have the skills, I don't have the tools, and I don't have the time. And I'm like, we met and I said, this is what I want to do. So one of the things that we do is, I call them posture enhancements, because I'm really big on I don't want anybody to think that the way that they're doing something is wrong, because I don't feel like there really is a wrong way to do a yoga posture as long as you're not hurting yourself. Yeah. Because everybody's skeletal anatomy is different. So what I wanted to do is take what we all as teachers see and the things that we say over and over again with the most common postures, half lift, like forward folds, and the things that we see. And so what we did was, or what we have done and are continue to do, is work on a series of posts and stories that are, and we call them posture enhancements. Yeah. That way it's not saying, this is wrong, this is right. I see a lot of that and I'm like, okay, that's cool, that's you. But that's not what I want to promote, because my community is older.
Yeah, can you tell me about your community? What's your audience?
Yes, I would love to. I have the most amazing community. They're from 40 to 75.
Best audience ever, first of all. They're not flipping in and out of things. They know what they like. They can afford what they like, and they're consistent in their practice.
Yes. And they're a lot of older ladies. A lot of them are retired. I have one outlier, Marty, who is 86. And she comes like almost every day. Awesome. Sometimes she takes 2 classes in a row. And so they're just a really wonderful community. And when I took over as the sole owner, I think they weren't quite sure what to expect. But after seeing me here all day, every day, and knowing that I knew their names and stuff like that, they're funny. They're pretty funny. They're a funny group of ladies. And we do have a couple of men. We are actively trying to recruit more men, because we know what yoga does for us. But it's hard. It's hard because this has always been such a female dominated studio.
So I can give you some tips on that one, because I've done yoga for men for years. But I'll tell you what.
Oh, really?
A dedicated class for men with a male teacher that understands the feeling of tight hips and hamstrings and can convey that. Okay. That worked for me as a male teacher. I found, and I also ran courses, yoga for men. So like a really safe, contained beginner type of course that makes them feel comfortable and addresses men's needs, which are everybody's needs, but specifically if you talk to hips, hamstrings, low backs, and building core, you're set.
Yeah. We have started a men's class. Okay. We started it once a month to see how that goes, because we did it once and there were a few. We did have a couple. We felt like every week was a little adventurous. And so we're going to do the first Wednesday of the month and continue to promote it and see how it goes. Yeah, we're trying it. I'm going to try pretty much anything.
See what sticks. Yeah.
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit about your software stack. I'm how, I know your MindBody, but I'm really curious about your kind of stack of what
I have MindBody, and then I use BrandBot, and I switched to Marketing Suite for a little while, and the graphics for the drip campaigns were really clunky, and I went back to Broadly and Brand. I went back to the other two.
Broadly, I'm not familiar with Broadly.
It's Broadly Engage, and they go out and get your reviews for you. Oh, okay. So they request reviews.
Yeah.
And we used them for a number of years. And like we went, I don't know, if you look on Google, I think we've got like 400 reviews,
Yeah.
which, and that helps you with your
It does
SEO
help.
and that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps with all of that stuff. They were really good with that. It's actually a solid platform. And the same thing with BrandBot. BrandBot, I've used them for the drip campaigns as well as for newsletters. And their graphic interface is super easy to use. It's drag and drop, and it's very...
I just want to stop there for the listeners. BrandBot is a marketing suite that connects to booking platforms such as MindBody, and email and text, correct?
They do email. I can't confirm about text though.
Mostly on the email. Yeah.
Yeah, must be definitely email.
Great for doing funnels, like an intro offer funnel and triggering off people haven't been attending. And
you can do all of that stuff. Yeah. And the reason why I ended up, because I tried Marketing Suite, because I really wanted to I liked the idea of having everything under one umbrella.
Yeah.
But there was some segmenting with the marketing stuff with the drip campaigns that I couldn't do in MindBody, which I knew I could do in BrandBot. So I was like, I got to go back to this one. And I called them. They were really nice and gave me back my old pricing. So I was like, thank you.
Can you address this one for some of my owners that are hesitant to invest in an automated marketing suite because there's an expense to it?
Yeah.
But for you, do you make money from the investment? Do you see the return?
I can't tell you that. I'll tell you one of the best things that I did was get Messenger AI.
That was okay.
That was one of the best.
Messenger AI is a MindBody product that basically it's like your receptionist, right, on your website.
Yeah.
Can you talk about
what that? Absolutely. Yeah. What that allowed me to do is it allowed me to get rid of my physical studio phone. Again, before I had one of these, it was clunky. So I had the phones forwarded to my cell phone, and then I had to have a spam filter on it. And it was like that. So I don't have any of that anymore. And now it's got the Messenger AI has two-way texting. And it's amazing because it has made my life so much easier. If somebody calls and they either leave a message, which I get, or if they hang up, then Messenger AI sends them a text message immediately. How can I help you? So it really helps you keep your finger on the pulse.
Oh, that's really good to know. Yeah, it's an impressive product, but to hear somebody say it actually frees you up.
Yeah, it does. And like I have it set up with some automatic responses. So if somebody asks me about pricing, I can just do quick click. I have some saved replies. And again, it's a really good product. So I'm happy with that. It's been a big time saver for me.
Perfect. All right, let's get to a controversial one, Sarah. One of your tech stacks was ClassPass.
Yeah, we started with ClassPass a number of years ago.
How many years ago were you?
Pre-COVID.
Oh, okay.
Pre-COVID.
Okay. So,
Pre-COVID. And at the time, it was just like free money. It was we didn't have and we didn't have a whole lot. Every once in a while, we get somebody, and it was like I said, it was free money, a couple $100 a month, which was nice. But what I learned when I went to MindBody University in May in Chicago was that the ClassPass has grown 300% in my area, and I was like, that makes sense because I was really starting to see a lot more people. So a little bit of history, like I used to have my intro offer was 30 days for $30. And what I noticed was that I wasn't having the conversion rate because the conversion rate, if they went straight from the intro into just the straight up intro, my regular, the ClassPass, the clients that were coming through in ClassPass were roughly the same age as the people who were coming in for the 30 days for $30.
Yep.
They weren't converting because there was too big of a differential between my intro offer and what my membership special was. I was noticing the trends and noticing what was happening. So I was like,
wait, hold on. I want to stop there. So you're talking about a big difference between a cheap intro and your membership, right? It's a big jump.
Correct.
For example, a $19 a month intro converting to $149 is
It's too big.
But if you're $149 and let's say sold it at $70, $80, it's
yeah.
Okay.
What I noticed was that the demographic of the people who were taking advantage of the 30 days for $30 was very similar to the ClassPass people. So I did some consulting, and she was like, you need to change your intro offer. So I upped that, which improved the caliber of people who were coming in.
Yeah, the quality of potential.
The quality.
Members. Yeah.
Correct. But I still had the ClassPass people. And then I also I did again, because I'm trying to maximize everything I can. I turned on all the dynamic stuff and all these things to try to maximize people coming in. And I was getting more ClassPass people, sometimes as many as 5 in a class, which is a lot of spaces because I only take 27 people. And they would cancel. They wouldn't show up. They would cancel at the last minute. And it just became very problematic. The number of people was going up and my payouts were going down. And I was like, what's happening here? So I increased my 10 ClassPass price as of the 1st of January. And then I contacted ClassPass and I said, I want to renegotiate, because I think I was getting like $6 a class for a ClassPass person. And I was like, yeah, no. And so I wanted to renegotiate my rate with them. And they're like, oh, your rate would actually be less. And like, how is that? My class, the price has gone up. How is it less? So that kind of was the beginning of me having a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And they were like, oh, you might have some people who are getting their first month free. And so I guess I wasn't getting paid for those. And I was like, this is just not the way that I want to work, not the way that I want to be treated as a partner. And Go ahead.
With you, I'm just curious, with your past people, when you looked at visits after, what were you seeing?
I've been able to convert one person.
I'm only asking that one because I have a client that is very much in ClassPass, and see from the data is ClassPass people are ClassPass people, and they are not going to really convert into being a member. So I see when you look at the visits after first visit, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Or there's the opposite, where you've got somebody coming to the top level class at the prime slot, if you've chosen to keep it that open, and coming multiple times a week to that prime slot, multiple times a month, to that prime slot.
Yeah. I had probably 10 people who were coming on a regular basis. And I reached out to when I knew I was going to cancel ClassPass, I reached out to all of them, because like I said, there were a number of things that started to happen. Like, first of all, ClassPass doesn't share their phone number with you. They don't sign the liability waiver. And then it got to the point where they didn't even share the address of the person with us. And I was like, I got no information on this person. They're coming into my studio. They haven't even signed the liability waiver and they're going to come and take class. I'm like, no. So there were just all these things that it was like death by 1,000 cuts. It just kept coming and coming. And I'm like, I'm not playing that game anymore. So I had a list. I went on my ClassPass dashboard and I looked at the people who were coming, and I reached out to them, because when they would come in, I would see that they had the 10000. I'm like, hey, and I would get their phone numbers and make sure that I got their information and would have them sign a liability waiver. But I reached out to all of them and I said, I'm going to terminate my contract with ClassPass. And I said, I want to offer you the membership special. So I didn't discount it any more than what I would do if they were going straight from the intro into the membership special. And I was able to convert one.
Yeah.
So
it's a I know I have to be careful here a little bit, right? Because I'm MindBody certified, and I love MindBody as a product, but I am struggling a little bit on the ClassPass side of things because
Yeah.
what I'm seeing is on a membership basis, it's very hard to build a community of members where people are not committed. They're flitting in and out of things. The other thing I'm seeing is if you get really embroiled and embedded into the ClassPass world, it's difficult to get out of it because some of the studios are making maybe $9,000 off of filling slots, but a month.
Wow.
Yeah, but the difficulty is with that is that they're not repeat people, and so
Yeah.
they're not going to be. They're not. It's very hard to build a membership business when you've got another entity chipping away at that model.
Yeah. It's like you're always trying to it's like you're trying to constantly sell drop-ins.
Yeah. And when I asked, so with this particular studio, we got ClassPass involved to have a meeting, like, how can we make this work a little bit better? And so when I looked at, let's say, a serial offender of ClassPass coming to that top level class at the top level time, multiple times a month, I said, if we turn that class off, what's going to happen to that client? And they said, they'll probably go to another studio. And I'm like,
yeah.
That's it. So I actually signed up for ClassPass myself to to test it out. And it's funny, I've got it, I'm paying for it, and I haven't been to
How much do they charge? How much do they charge you?
I think it's
because that's it.
I think it's
something I was like, I don't even know.
It's 69 for a regular for the base. Yeah.
So,
and then the other thing that I found out was that if it depends on what membership they're paying for. So if they're paying for a higher amount of credits a month, they have more access to the studios.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the bit that I feel like your business model is either all in on ClassPass and you embrace that and you build a business around drop-ins, or you have to figure out how to build your community of people. Sarah, you broke up with ClassPass.
I did. And it didn't have any effect. I wasn't taking in $9,000 in ClassPass. I mean, it was not that much, but I focused on, like I said, I focused on the community. We have a lot of events. I think I have 27 events between now and the end of the year. So there's always something happening at the studio, whether it's like this weekend, we've got something on Friday night, like a little meditation thing. And then on Sunday, we've got a kirtan. We got full moon cacao ceremonies, sound healings, meditation classes. And that, I feel like that has helped to really cement the community again.
Yeah, so you put more your energy into those community building things, right?
Yeah. Because as I mentioned, because of my demographic, a lot of times this is their community. Yeah. They come here. I have a nice little reception area with a comfortable day bed, and
they probably go for lunches together after class. Yeah.
So that's what I'm focusing on. When I called ClassPass, I said I want to terminate my contract, and I knew it wasn't going to be an issue because I had been with them and she was like, you'll have 90 days to phase out. I went, no. Said no, I'm going to.
Is that the contract of 90 days? Is that what is in the contract?
Yeah, they have 90 days to phase out. And I said no. I said I want to be done in 7. And I said you can. I probably shouldn't say this. I said you can keep me on there for 90 days. I said, but I've deleted the API out of my MindBody, and I said, and I've disabled all the classes. So you can do what you want. I said, but I'm done. And she was like, okay.
Okay, let's recap here. Instead of going through the mandatory 30 days, Sarah went into her account and deleted all ClassPass access to your data.
Yeah, I just switched them all off. Because the other thing that they would do is if I added a workshop, the workshop would show up in ClassPass, and I'd have people show up it was like they don't tell you that. And so it was just like, I don't want to work with somebody who's going to treat me like that.
So one of the things I find interesting when I go into my clients' accounts with ClassPass, there's the ClassPass separate dashboard, which is really not integrated into the main product. It's a very separate entity. And I find that the data on that, it presents very positively. Your studio has made all this money. We filled this many spots. It's like all this positive stuff. But then you go into the mind body side of things and you look through the data and it's, oh, I've got no retention. That's just a one-hit class over and over again. And so you're looking at those. And as consultants, we track conversions of new students. That's a big thing of what we look at, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't convert. But I do think if you are MindBody, ClassPass, I think you probably need to just go all in on ClassPass and be okay with it. But I think if you're building a membership-based business, personally, I don't see it working.
No, I don't. I agree. And I did recently sign up for PeerFit, which I'll check back with me. That when I met with a young lady who wanted me, they were relentless in trying to get me to join. But they base the membership off of my 1 month unlimited. Yeah. It's a better payout. It's a much healthier payout. So it's even if they just time during their month, you get paid for the membership.
So that's worth it for them marketing it.
Yeah. And they do it. It's with a couple of businesses. I think Aetna is pretty big in my area, and Aetna uses PeerFit. So I was like, I'll try it and see what happens. But the thing for me was that it was a decent payout, and I don't want to discount my services because we have a hard enough time as yoga teachers getting people to value yoga anyway.
Yeah, and you don't want to come across as Grouponish, right? It's always been in. I definitely have some studios that it's a constant sale. It's I've got to pay the next month rent, so it's like we're constantly on sale. And I think you need to stand behind the value of the service.
Absolutely.
Of your expertise, your teacher's expertise, and that you're creating an amazing experience for them. And you just have to stand behind that and find the clients that are looking for that. And that can
I did experiment with Black Friday. I did one, and I did it like 24 hours, midnight to midnight, and that was it. And it was like creating that scarcity. So I did the 10 class. I did a 12 class pass for the price of 10.
Yeah, I think one of the things is a great one because you're not discounting, you're adding value.
Right. And I think that's something I may have learned in one of the webinars with you is adding value as opposed to discounting. Yeah. And then just for that one day I did do a 50% off the first month for my 2 memberships because I have 2 memberships. And I sold a couple of the class packages. I think I got 1 new member.
Yeah.
So it was worth it, but I'm not big on the whole sale thing because I want to add value. I don't want to discount what we do.
Yeah, I have my clients not put a sale on for the sake of a sale, but to actually look at your flow of your year, and you can habits of sales and habits of people. And we only put a value added sale, plug it into those low sale months, right? And and the same with doing a bingo or something that gets you people on the mat. You only put those on a low attendance month. So really looking ahead strategically. Hey, Sarah, we've been talking forever here. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. Something about you that most people wouldn't know.
I was a classically trained pianist from the age of 8 to 18.
That's
so amazing. I can still play. I
can still play even though I don't play in yoga classes. That would be incredible. What's your favorite business tool, website, or app? Business.
The Messenger AI is probably the best one. Like I said, I really use that a lot, and it gives me some freedom to not have to be here in the studio, and keeps me in touch with the clients. If they need anything, I can reach out to them directly. It's very helpful.
Awesome. So what's your favorite personal fun website or app?
I'm an IG girl.
Yeah, Instagram.
I love me the gram.
Yeah, I like the Instagram too.
I have to admit, I do a little of the TikTok as well.
I love a little TikTok. I have to be careful with TikTok. I tend to go a couple of weeks without going on there, and then I binge. And it's also not enough people are using it for research. But if you go on to TikTok and you write down, you type in latest marketing ideas or anything like that, you get these little fast segments that can make a massive difference. Really good tips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And I like it. My husband calls it the tiki talk.
It's super entertaining though, right? It's like I found that during COVID, that was my little pleasure that was my happy place where you could just ignore the world and laugh your head off for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got stuck down a rabbit hole for the raccoon drive-through last night.
I've been in the rabbit hole of ChatGPT and artificial intelligence lately and some prompts. And that's been, anyway. Sarah, I'm going to thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing
you so much.
your story. And I hope that your story inspires other people to start a yoga studio, buy a yoga studio, and despite all the challenges that you've through, staff, COVID, and all of those things, you've really found a way to make your studio your own. Where do people find your studio?
www.redsunyoga.com. That's our website. And anybody wants my help, you can always reach out. I'm happy to offer any assistance that I can.
Yeah. Thank you.
Better together.
Better together. Thank you so much for your time, Sarah. A pleasure spending our mornings together.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Take care.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Episode 1, Season 3, that is a wrap. And I've got some great guests lined up for future episodes, so watch for them coming out. If you're enjoying these podcasts and you find them useful, I would really appreciate that you subscribe to it, whether you're on Spotify, Apple, Google, doesn't matter. And if you really want to help me out, give me a 5-star rating and a review. It helps me massively. Also, go to my website, yogabizcamp.com. There's a whole bunch of free resources there for you. And if you want to have a free, no-strings chat with me, go to the homepage there, yogabizcamp.com. Until next episode.